Hey, Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. On this channel, we talk about crowdfunding. We talk about how you can get funding for a new campaign, how to get funding for your business, for your idea, for your passion, for those creative things that you are putting out there into the world, and how you turn your passion into profit. And that's kind of what I love doing. First of all, obviously, I've done it in my own career. A lot of people don't really understand what I do, and maybe I'll talk about that a little bit. But this is really about you. This is about how do you get your passion, your creative projects that you're putting out there, whether you're a podcaster, whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're a blogger, whether you're someone who's putting out even physical products, making comics, you're doing an artist, illustrations, even like micro trailers or web series, anything like that. I want to talk about how you can monetize this easily using subscription crowdfunding today, as well as another site, which is Patreon. So we'll be talking about today, what the heck is Patreon, getting into subscription crowdfunding, how you can use this, and some of the tips that I have related to that. And it's coming up right after this. Okay, brother, thank you so much for tuning in to this YouTube channel. My name is Salvador Briggman. I've been doing this channel for a while now. I also was in the crowdfunding industry since 2012. I started my blog, crowdcrux.com. I started the podcast, Crowdfunding Demystified. I obviously also have this YouTube channel, a bunch of books and courses that are out there. And one of the things that I do, and people really honestly, a lot of times wrap their head around what I do. So obviously I'm a coach. I also help one-on-one when it comes to certain clients with that and with their digital marketing. But aside from that, I like to pioneer new concepts. So I'll cover things before anyone else is. And I give you kind of the secrets behind the scene, right? I love to kind of pull back the hood and help you understand in a very simple layman's terms, not really big terminology or anything like that. Really, it's almost like anyone can understand it, because that's how I like to be explained to, right? I don't want someone using big fancy finance jargon, all that kind of stuff. So I try to keep it as it is, very simple, no nonsense, and we'll talk about this. So Patreon and subscription crowdfunding. First of all, we talked about who this is for, right? So for people that are doing podcasts, creative work, you're putting out YouTube videos, blog articles, you could even be putting out a web series, really anything under the sun that could be a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign of any kind, you can use Patreon for. So I want to talk first of all about the differences between Kickstarter Indiegogo, which is rewards-based crowdfunding, versus subscription-based crowdfunding. Then we'll talk about Patreon itself, and then some of those secrets that you can use in order to launch a campaign more effectively. Okay, so subscription-based crowdfunding. What the heck does that mean? I mean, that's a big word, subscription-based crowdfunding, right? I don't know if you can use a bullet point, what's it called, a bumper sticker or something like that. Like that'd be a really big bumper sticker. So this is a mouthful, subscription crowdfunding. What it really means is in the same way with crowdfunding. So crowdfunding, that word just really means that you're raising money from the crowd for some kind of initiative, for some kind of a project, for some kind of a business of some kind. So for example, equity crowdfunding, that is raising money for a business using the crowd of investors. Kickstarter Indiegogo is rewards-based crowdfunding, or the fact that you can raise money for a crowd for a single project. You have a funding meter, you have a duration that you're running that campaign, and then after that campaign is done, you get a lump of cash in your bank account, which is always a nice thing, right? And then you deliver on your rewards, which is similar to Kickstarter Indiegogo. With subscription-based crowdfunding, basically people who came here and were like, you know what? I don't want to keep running Kickstarter and Indiegogo campaigns. Okay, like I don't want to just keep running another one and then another one, and they really be like micro campaigns where I'm only raising like $5,000 for something really small, like putting out a new web series or putting out a new podcast. Maybe I'll raise like $500 to do that or something like that, right? Rather than doing that, they decided, hey, why don't we come up with a different solution? So originally, actually, subscription-based crowdfunding was kind of started with Drip, and that was actually a subsection of Kickstarter. Drip is really no longer a thing anymore, but that actually used to be subscription-based crowdfunding. And then Patreon kind of just came in and ate all their lunch, let's just be honest, right? They came in and they did just a way better job, honestly, when it comes to the subscription-based crowdfunding platform. So Patreon emerged as a way for artists to get paid for the work that they do. And rather than running a long 30-day crowdfunding campaign, raising money, and then having to do another one and another one and another one, they were like, why don't we instead just kind of scrap that whole fundraising duration, instead allow people to support artists on a recurring basis, and in addition have different reward tiers in the same way that you have with a Kickstarter campaign, and also different milestones that are related to that. So again, you think of subscription-based crowdfunding, typically some of the things that you're going to want to pay attention to or be aware of. Number one is that it's typically smaller amounts. So when I think of amounts when it comes to Kickstarter Indiegogo, I'm usually thinking around $25, $50, $100, $200 if it's a physical product, right? When it comes to creative categories, that might be a little bit different, or it comes to dance, theater, etc. It's going to really vary from category to category, but I'd say usually anywhere from $50 going upwards of $300 if it's a really high-end product. When it comes to subscription-based crowdfunding, you're usually thinking more of like $5 per month, $10 per month, $15 per month, $25 per month. Because again, these people are supporting on a recurring basis. So the first thing that you want to think of is that there's typically are smaller amounts when it comes to subscription-based crowdfunding. The second thing that you want to think about is typically there's a different type of audience buildup. So audience buildup, this is a buildup, is a phenomenon that I documented in my book, The Kickstarter Launch Formula, which is the fact that I noticed that every single campaign that was successful did this thing, which is a pre-launch, which is also audience buildup. So I started to educate about that. And essentially what that is just building an audience of people that want to support you, want to support your creative work, and using that tribe. And I'm not the first one to pioneer this, obviously, Kevin Kelly's 1,000 True Fans is a great article. You should definitely read that. This audience build was a hallmark of crowdfunding success. And now when it comes to Patreon, it's a little bit different. And with subscription crowdfunding, it is a little bit different. So we covered what subscription crowdfunding is, which is someone repeatedly supporting you on a monthly basis or when you come out with new creations. So new podcasts, new videos, it could be either or. It could be monthly or per creation, okay? And it's on a regular recurring basis with smaller amounts. The big difference between this and other things like rewards-based crowdfunding is the fact that typically you're growing your audience at the same speed at which you're growing your Patreon campaign, right? So with rewards-based, you're building up a huge audience, you launch, you get a bunch of funding, you raise maybe 200K, 300K, you cash out, you go out there and you do your project, right? When it comes to Patreon, when it comes to subscription-based crowdfunding, you are announcing this campaign, you're getting your initial fans in there, and then there's this very slow buildup, okay? So if you want to think of the graph, it's kind of like linear and a little bit exponential depending on how good you are as a creator, but it's really a slow buildup. So this is something that you shouldn't just expect that you launch this and then it's like massive, major, huge, unless you already have a big audience. If you already have a big audience, it's gonna be huge, right, when you announce it. If you don't, it's gonna be a very slow buildup. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's how most Patreon, how most subscription-based crowdfunding works. So you're gonna be thinking there's a little bit slower audience buildup with subscription-based crowdfunding. The other thing that you want to take away is that there are different reward tiers, which again is very similar to Kickstarter Indiegogo. So we're just gonna go here, reward tiers, and you call these perks, you call these whatever you want. You can call them membership levels, and you can put really any word to this. It's really just different levels that people are supporting at, and this is very common with subscription-based crowdfunding. So for example, if someone's supporting at $5 a month, the value that they're getting or what you're giving them is very different from what you're doing at $25 a month. So maybe at $5 a month, they're just getting access to a members area. Maybe at $25 a month, they're getting access to, before anyone else, new YouTube videos that you're not yet put out there to the public, or new podcasts that you haven't yet announced, or maybe you can get to ask a couple of the guests that you have on the show some questions, right? So there are different kits, K-I-T-S, kits that are available on Patreon, and you can look at these depending on your category, your creative category, but this is something that is so freaking cool because that means that based on the amount that you have that person as a supporter, you can create what's called a value ladder. So I want to just kind of put this here. It's called a value ladder, which means that it's a progressive system, and the more that someone is supporting, the more someone's putting into your campaign, the more value you are delivering them. And I think that it makes a lot of sense, right? It makes a lot of sense. And also the fact that they become kind of more of like a hardcore fan. They get to sample stuff that not everyone else gets to. So it's a really, to me, rewarding system for them as well, because they feel like an elite member, if they will, a part of your Patreon or a part of your membership community.
Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The Top Campaigns uses trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description.
So the next thing is that, kind of stripping away some of the traditional elements of crowdfunding. One of those traditional elements, like I talk about, is a duration. Typically a crowdfunding campaign, whether that is a equity crowdfunding campaign, real estate crowdfunding campaign, Kickstarter rewards-based crowdfunding campaign, nonprofit crowdfunding campaign, most of these campaigns that are based in crowdfunding typically have a duration of some kind. When it comes to Patreon, that is not necessarily the case. And that, subscription-based crowdfunding, that is not necessarily the case. Now, there are different platforms out there that have different functionality. We're kind of talking about like the mainstream a little bit more. When it comes to the mainstream, what's actually a bigger incentive than duration is what we call milestones. Okay, so I'm just gonna put this here. Milestones, okay? So you're gonna see this much more frequently when you're beginning to browse different campaigns, rather than seeing like a duration, which you might expect with Kickstarter, which again creates urgency. Instead, you're having these different milestones, which are very similar to stretch goals, right, when it comes to reward-based crowdfunding. And these milestones encourage you to support it. So when you get to this next milestone, this next cool thing is unlocked. And those creators then set those goals and they slowly begin to unlock one after one after one, which also is in line and tied to their progress when it comes to subscription-based crowdfunding. So again, this is the mainstream. There are examples of like special offers that you can do which are limited in duration and these different things, but we're just kind of covering it in a broad sense, okay? We don't need to get into all the weeds and the nitty-gritty at the moment. So first of all, you should be getting a little bit of an idea of how subscription crowdfunding can help you. Number one, it's much more of a consistent, reliable income stream for you as a creator. If you're more on the backer side, you're a patron, you can also support these creators that you love. You can be an incredible part of their community. Number two, with that reliable income, you can also create reward tiers and have a value ladder and different milestones so that you are delivering value as well, and those people want to stay a part of your community. So this is a very powerful way to have a tight-knit community of people that are not just there following you, but they're also putting their money where their mouth is, and they're also enabling you as a creator to produce cooler stuff, to get great things out there, whatever it is, whatever widget, gadget, whatever kind of creative work that you're trying to do, podcasts, videos, blog posts, right? Comics, artist stuff, kind of, there's something, everything under the sun, right? When it comes to this. And you can go and check this out, obviously, on Patreon. So this is something that to me is like a no-brainer, honestly. However, there are other things that you should be aware of. So I'm gonna just cover a very quick couple of things you should be aware of, and then we're gonna wrap up this video. First thing that you need to be aware of is, number one, you need a marketing strategy, okay? We're just gonna say marketing strategy. You need a marketing strategy, okay? What do I mean by marketing strategy? I mean a way in which you can consistently include a link to this Patreon page or the subscription crowdfunding page within your content that you're producing. If you don't do this, you're not gonna continue to grow as your audience grows. And as well as there's a lot of things that go into marketing strategy. You guys book a one-on-one coaching call with me if you wanna learn more about that. But there's a lot that goes into marketing a campaign as well, making sure that it's a system that's working together. So when you're producing new content, your Patreon or your subscription-based crowdfunding campaign is growing at the same time. The worst thing is, like, it's almost like going to the gym, right? And honestly, I'm like kind of, this is not great example because I kind of suffer from this, is that sometimes I'll go to the gym and I overdo my arms, but I underdo my legs, right? I should be doing more squats. Well, the squats are freaking hard, man. It's hard. So anyway, sometimes you're overworking certain things. So you're building your audience, but you're not building your Patreon. So you want to make sure that it's a system that's working together, and also that all of your different channels that you're putting out there, whether that is social media marketing, text message marketing, email marketing, etc., that they all are working together to have a consistent stream of people always joining that membership area. So you gotta learn a little bit about marketing. Number two is you gotta have a great offer. The only way which you're gonna get people, almost like having that waterfall effect, to move from one tier to the next tier to the next tier, is if it's more and more compelling the more they go up that ladder, right? So feel like if they're ascending the mountain, that it's so cool, they're seeing different sights, right? And the more that they climb up that mountain, the more they just want to even get to that top point and become an elite member of your Patreon community. So you want to make sure that you have a really, really compelling offer. And number three, I think, is something that just has to be said. And that's because this is so freaking important. The more that you invest in understanding the system, the more that you invest in understanding this marketing when it comes to crowdfunding, the more you invest in understanding how this works, man, it's gonna be worth just years and years of toil of you just wasting time, not doing the right things, not being able to monetize your passion. What if I was telling you that you could get it done very quickly if you just understood the right things to do? And it's not like it's rocket science, right? That is exactly what you need to be doing on a consistent basis when you're first kind of getting this up and running, which is studying success. Now, this is a little bit controversial, I think, because a lot of the times when we see success, kind of like the mainstream, people out there that aren't creators, people out there that are not, attached to monetary success in those things, or they almost kind of belittle it. They're usually like, dude, I don't want to hear about your success. Why are you being braggadocious, right? I don't want to study success. Like, I don't care only about, monetizing in that way. I care about the impact I'm making, right? Well, I will make this argument to you. When you have a reliable and consistent income flow of people that are supporting you, of fans, not only are they more invested in you, but also it gives you those funds to go out there and to impact the world in an even greater way. So you need to study success within this industry. I'm telling you, man, you gotta study what the greats are doing when it comes to subscription-based crowdfunding, and just investing a little bit of time every single day in understanding this, in understanding how to market your campaign, in understanding things like how do you set up a really great Patreon page, some of the secrets that go into that. It's gonna make it so much easier for you. Not only is it gonna speed up time, but it's also gonna make it so that when you actually are running this campaign, right, you're gonna be able to grow it at the same time. So you're not just gonna kind of plateau or something like that. You're gonna be able to diagnose, see what's happening, understanding your analytics, and just getting a working knowledge of that. Maybe at some point you just understand it and then you hand it off to someone else on your team, right? Once you begin to get big enough. However, in the early days, it really behooves you to understand what you are doing in the same way that you gotta learn and show up with your craft. If you're like an actor, right, and you were looking to go on a play, right, but you never actually showed up for rehearsal, obviously you're probably not gonna be very good when it's the opening night for the play. So you gotta be studying, you always gotta be training, you gotta be really just working that working knowledge of how this works and how Patreon works. So that kind of leads me into what I'm sharing with you today, which is that I'm opening up a wait list. So this is a wait list for a new guide, which I'm putting out there basically to allow you to have more profit when it comes to your Patreon campaign. So I haven't yet settled on a name, but I'm kind of toying around different things, and you can also leave a comment down below. First of all, what I'm thinking of is, number one, how do you have more profit with your Patreon campaign? Number two, how do you set it up quickly, easily, and efficiently? Number three, what are some of the hacks and tricks that people are doing behind closed doors that no one else is talking about and that you may not be aware of? These are things that I've just been gathering over time, and I'm ready to release a complete step-by-step guide on this. And it's really an actionable thing. Like, this isn't like reading a textbook or something like this. This is just like pure action, pure golden insights, which you can then apply to running a subscription-based crowdfunding campaign. I'd love to share more, even that goes beyond this. So if you're all interested in understanding this and you want to start this off with the right foot, you really want to start this off in the right way, you want to set a good foundational knowledge for your campaign, and also understand some of those tricks of the trade, some of the things that are those items in your war chest you might even don't even realize are available to you nowadays to really easily get and build up your audience, to really easily get donations recurring, and get also patrons as well for your Patreon campaign. This is something that I've been working on for a while, and I want to share with you. So you can go down below and you can check out the waitlist when it comes to this new guide. And again, it's a very simple, straightforward guide when it comes to this. No fluff, no nonsense, nothing like that. Just kind of, cutting straight to the point to help you run an effective campaign when it comes to Patreon and to make more profit with that campaign. So I'm thinking of calling it Patreon Profits, but we're still kind of up in the air, and I'm discussing that with my team. So if you enjoyed that, go and check it out down below. You can learn more about that. That being said, thank you so much for following me. I really appreciate this. And whether you're supporting by grabbing a guide, purchasing a book here and there, listening to one of my courses, my audiobooks or something like that, it means so much to me, man. You are part of my community. I really hope that I can help you raise more money with your crowdfunding campaign. My name is Salvador Briggman, and I will see you next time.